My name is Jeremy Norman. I'm the principal owner of Soho Gyms. And before that, I started the world-famous Heaven nightclub.
I'm Derek Frost, and professionally I used to be an interior designer.
I met Derek when he was 25 and I was 29. We've been together ever since. I heard on the radio someone saying that spring travels up through Britain at the pace of a walking man. And I thought that was an intensely romantic notion.
Every summer, Derek and Jeremy charter Killarney, an 80-foot, twin-screw diesel motor yacht. Usually, they cruise the Mediterranean. This journey will be different. They'll start at the tip of England, the Isles of Scilly. From there, they'll go up the Bristol Channel to South Wales. And from South Wales, up the coast of Wales, across the Irish Sea to Northern Ireland. Then, up the coast of Northern Ireland, right to the very top, to Rathlin Island, and then across to the Mull of Kintyre in Scotland. They'll then proceed up the Inner Hebrides to Ullapool, taking in all the famous islands, and then from Ullapool, across the treacherous Minch to the Outer Hebrides, and from there on to St Kilda, hopefully, if they make it. Previously on Chasing Spring. Last time, Killarney sailed from Abersoch to Porthmadog, where Derek and Jeremy visited the Festiniog Railway.
But this is the old carriage, it's made in 1898 apparently.
Later, Jeremy and Dimmy checked the lobster pots.
Well, we're leaving Abersoch Bay and we're heading making a passage of about 55 miles up to Holyhead. The three bottlenose dolphins that have been chasing us out of the bay are probably the same pod that escorted us into the bay, so that's kind of rather nice.
They travelled up the Menai Straits to Beaumaris, where they visited the 13th century castle built by Edward I as part of his conquest of North Wales. Derek and Jeremy, with their guests Andrew and Fiona Duncan, take the tender to Puffin Island, an uninhabited limestone island off the coast of Anglesey. It's home to many nesting seabirds, especially a colony of guillemots.
But that's a fantastic colony of guillemots there. And they do look exactly like penguins. And they fly underwater, as do penguins. But the big difference being that here in the northern hemisphere, where there are no penguins, guillemots need to fly through the air as well because they're land predators and they have to nest on cliffs.
They choose those inaccessible ledges to lay their single egg because it's safe from predators. And evolution has shaped their egg like a wedge. It's that shaped. It's long and thin. And can you think of the reason why? They lay it on the ledge. It just sits there on the ledge. Exactly. It rolls in a circle.
Right.
And we see kittiwakes here, which tend to nest on very inaccessible ledges in the cliff. Beautiful little birds, very seagull-like, but with very gracile, delicate heads and very black wingtips. And we see also quite a lot of razorbill here. And the razorbill are very like the guillemot, only they have a more parrot-like beak. And they tend to be in small numbers rather than large rookeries like the guillemot.
They're going. Yep, going.
I think we're more likely to see puffins where there's open grassland.
Yeah.
Fiona spots some nesting shag.
Look at that, Zandy. Beautiful creature. He's so kind of evil looking.
Derek and Andrew decide to land and explore the beach.
The beach was completely solid mussel shells. Millions and millions of mussel shells. Absolutely fantastic.
Derek photographs the large stands of Alexander that cover this part of the island. It's related to the celery plant and is edible when young. It's a misty start to the day in Holyhead. However, the sun soon burns through, and even though it's the May Day holiday, the owner of the commercial fuel station kindly opens so that Killarney can fill up. It takes a couple of hours to pump the fuel, so they use the time to explore the port and check out the other vessels. Fishing is hard work, and some of the boats have seen better days. Jeremy takes the time to chat with some of the fishermen, who explain how tough things are.
And we are chasing spring, and basically want to talk to people about what spring means to them and what's been happening to the catches and what you think about sort of life of the world and nature generally. What sort of fishing do you do?
We're whelk fishing at the moment.
Whelk
Yeah,
fishing?
we fish about 1,000 pots a day for whelks. These are the pots on the quay here.
Okay. Why did you particularly hone in on whelks?
Well, we haven't got much left we can do now because we're being closed down with different markets. It just stopped us long lining. They stopped us from scalloping.
Yeah.
So we only really have whelks now. So if it wasn't for the whelks, we'd have been put out of business by the government very soon.
Really?
So we're really just down to what we can do now here.
Now, what's the story on whelks? You put pots down and leave them there?
Pots are at sea now. Yeah.
And what do you bait them?
Yeah, bait them with dogfish.
This is a good life fishing.
Yeah, if you like that sort of thing. It is for some people.
You earn a good screw doing it?
Yeah, well, it's okay. Make
Yeah,
a living.
it's okay. Yeah.
It's sad to see the once magnificent commercial fishing fleet reduced to rusting hulks, fishing for crabs and whelks, the scavengers of the sea. It's hard to know where the blame lies, but it's clear that the bountiful shoals of whitefish that once sustained the industry are now a distant memory. First the cod stocks collapsed, then herring, and now even mackerel are scarce.
In the height of the season, you can look at 2 in 10. 2 lobsters. That's all you get.
What about crabs? Do crabs and lobsters use the same pots?
Same pots, yeah.
It's just different places, is it? You go for
No.
crabs, or you just might get either or.
That's it, yeah.
And so if it's 2
Long and
lobsters
short.
in 10, how many crabs, edible crabs, do you get?
It all depends on the season. I mean, this time in the year, you get 5 or 6, you know, on the brown crab, yeah. The fishing's up and down, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, some years it's good, and the next year it's
Bad.
bad, you know. Then, you know, it's good again, you know. I mean, they told us, I think it was the 27th of January, we got a letter from DEFRA
Yep.
stating that the stocks are low,
Yep.
and we were told to stop fishing February the 1st. So we had 4 days notice.
And this is a major impact on your business.
Huge impact, you know. No, the whelks get cooked in there, you know,
Yeah.
and they get shipped to Korea as cooked meat.
The sea mist rolls in. Its dank obscurity seems to fit the mood of the fishermen. Killarney leaves Holyhead late afternoon and sets out across the Irish Sea towards Jeremy's boyhood home, the Isle of Man.
Today is the 5th of May and it's about 6:30 in the afternoon. Beautiful calm day, and we're approaching my childhood home of the Isle of Man. I haven't been back here for jolly nearly 50 years, so it's going to be very interesting to see how the island has changed. But I think if they know what it is, which I doubt, they might recognise that we're flying the gay flag, the rainbow flag. And of course the Isle of Man, along with the Channel Islands, is the last place in Western Europe to change their laws and decriminalise homosexuality. In fact, they were forced to do so by the British government, so I wonder if we'll get a warm and pleasant welcome, or whether attitudes have changed along with their law.
Just over there.
Where that buoy is?
Yeah, further in from that buoy, just
Yeah.
in slightly from that to the northeast into that buoy.
They drop anchor near Castletown, the island's capital until 1847. Derek meditates while Jeremy and Dimmy try their luck at fishing, another form of meditation. It's a beautiful and serene evening. Everyone communes with nature in their own way, reflecting on the wonders they have already seen, with the adventure still only part way through. The beautiful sunset reminds them why they embarked on this journey. For a change, they have some luck and land 2 mackerel and a pollock. They also lay the lobster pots, which will soak overnight. Derek enters into the silence that comes with the end of the day, relishing these moments of peace. The next day, they go ashore at Castletown. Tynwald, the island's parliament, is the second oldest in the world after Iceland. It's now a sleepy seaside town with a well-preserved medieval castle, Castle Rushen, and a historic grammar school that dates back to the 15th century. It's at the grammar school that they meet their friend and guide for the day, Simon Parks.
This is the old grammar school, which also, for a time it was a little Anglican chapel, and my daughter was actually christened here. And now it's now back to an old grammar school. The sad thing is that there was the whole area of this area of Castletown was full of sort of rather run-down buildings which were sadly demolished.
I understand that there were 2 issues on which the Isle of Man was lent on, I think would be a polite word, but perhaps even forced by the British government to change their legislation. One, I believe, was on the subject of birching, which was very dear to the island's heart, and the other was on the issue of the decriminalisation of homosexuality. So on what basis did the British government lean on the Isle of Man government?
I think I'm right in saying that there is a reserve power that the British government has to legislate for the Isle of Man, so it may even have threatened to do that, to legislate for us. But in the end, it was by means of Manx legislation, I think, that the law in those 2 areas was changed. But if you are able to legislate for others,
Yes.
you have a considerable hold over them, haven't you?
On what basis is this reserve power held? Is it the sovereign power?
It is, I think, the fact that the Queen is the Lord of Man. And her sovereignty, I suppose, over the island is vested in the British government.
This is Sycamore just coming into leaf, isn't it?
The gorse is in bloom in the fields, and the bluebells are out in the woods. The song of spring is all around.
And then, do you think these could be elms?
I think they almost certainly are elms, but the problem is that it's so long since one's seen an elm in England, we've rather forgotten what they looked like. The elms were very often planted as ornamental avenues along drives to grand houses, so that would figure. Although there's mixed planting here because we can see some beech trees as well. This is a typical woodland flower, the red campion, found in springtime, with the opposite leaves, where the two leaves grow out from the stalk at the same place, and the beautiful pink flowers, and they're very typical of woodland glades in spring. Here we will see that this red campion, which hasn't yet come into flower, as you will see, is thickly infested with aphids. And that probably will actually stop it coming into flower. The whole of the floor of this woodland is carpeted in ground elder, which will be familiar to any gardener, and also to goosegrass, which again is a familiar garden weed and is sort of sticky and sticks to your clothing and your hands.
This is the Calf of Man, which is the small island off the Isle of Man, uninhabited.
Seeing motorcyclists reminds them that the Isle of Man is the home to the Tourist Trophy Race, or TT, for many years the most prestigious motorcycle race in the world. Even the seals are enjoying the sunshine.
We're in Glenwillan in the Isle of Man, and we're standing by a beech tree which is rather a late developer. It's just coming into leaf. Just those bright green shoots just appearing out of the buds. And in a few days' time it'll be in full leaf, and it's a wonderful sight. It's a rather clover-like plant, but the leaves droop down, very velvety to touch, and a pretty little 5-petaled white flower.
I was saying that I thought autumn was less marked as a season in the Isle of Man than, for instance, in southern England.
Well, the reason must be because the climate is so mild that there is no sudden death for the leaves, and that they simply die off one by one, as it were. so you don't get that sort of wonderful autumn glow.
Yes.
This is a beautiful glen called Glen Willin in the Isle of Man. And it's a complete contrast to all the wonderful things we've seen from the sea, which are all part of the arrival of spring and the wonderful nesting seabirds. And now we're in this beautiful, tranquil glen, where we see all the trees coming into leaf and all the woodland flowers on the floor of the forest. And the sound of the water, which you can hear in the background. It's a truly magical place.
Sure is.
Simon wants to show them more of the sights, so it's time to move on. He takes them to the Point of Ayr Reserve, an extensive area of coastal dunes and heath.
Acres of marram grass stabilising the dune system. Lots of evidence of rabbits, although we haven't seen any. And we're hearing skylarks, but again I can't see them. They must be close too.
Later that afternoon, back in Castletown, Jeremy takes the time to chat with some of the locals who have spent a lifetime on or around the sea.
Which lighthouse were you a keeper at?
Where you're going? In Scotland. I was at Duhartach.
What was it like living on a lighthouse?
Grim.
I bet it was. Were you on your own or did you
No,
have someone?
3 of us. 3 people.
Yep.
2 months out, 1 month ashore.
And did you witness a dramatic storm or what?
Many.
Many. Did you ever think the lighthouse might be blown off its pedestal?
Never.
You never had any fear?
No, it used to shake a bit and rattle about, but no.
What date was the lighthouse built?
1870s. Gerryvaux was the next one up.
Right.
But they were lucky, they had electric light. We only had paraffin.
You had paraffin?
Yes.
That is amazing.
That's all.
So what years were you there?
Oh, 1963 to when? 67. I was on there.
Right. And then you decide...
Oh, and I was in other lighthouses as well.
Did you decide to leave the lighthouse service?
I transferred to the Coast Guard service, and then I left the Coast Guard service in 1988, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, and where did you go there?
I went into the Manx Museum to work.
Well, you certainly had a varied career.
And I was in the carrying trade, carrying coffins.
It's nice just to shoot the breeze and while away a few hours. Next time.
So where are we now?
You know, around about here.
Why aren't we going to Stranford Lock? Because that was our original plan.
Yeah, well, we've got the forecast, which is 4-6 from the east.
Ivy is really interesting.
Well, I'm really concerned. Ivy is taking over. It is just taking over all the trees.
It was the first thing I was taken to when I arrived in Rwanda, sort of completely wet behind the ears.
What's that? Over there.
It looks like a crane barge.
Yeah.
Here's for the yellow vessel approaching you.
What does he want us to do?
Use your radio! The barge has 8 high tension wires coming out of it.
Right.
And you're almost within inches of losing your boat there.